Title: The House That Watches. It started with a house. Not just any house, but one that had stood at the edge of town for over 100 years, abandoned, yet eerily well kept. It had no owner, no records in town archives, and yet it remained untouched by time. People whispered about it. They said it was cursed, that those who entered never returned. But I, being the skeptic I was, chalked it up to superstition. Then came the letter. A plain, yellowed envelope slid under my apartment door. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper with 5 words, scrawled in red ink. You are invited to stay. No signature. No explanation. Most would have ignored it. But I had spent years chasing down mysteries, proving legends wrong. I decided to go. The house loomed before me, its windows dark, like empty sockets in a skull. The front door, surprisingly, was ajar, as if expecting me. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and something acrid and metallic. The furniture was pristine, untouched, as though someone had just stepped out for a moment. Then the whispers began. Soft, indistinct, slithering through the air like wind through dead leaves. I turned sharply, expecting someone behind me. No one. Just an old mirror hanging on the far wall. I stepped closer. My reflection moved a half-second slower than it should have. A trick of the light, I told myself. But my gut clenched, an instinctual warning. Then the door slammed shut. I whirled around. The house had locked me in. I tried the knob. It wouldn't budge. Every window I checked was sealed, the glass thick and immovable. Panic clawed at my throat, but I forced it down. I needed to stay calm. Exploring the house seemed like the only option. The hallway stretched impossibly long, more doors than the house should have had. I chose one at random and pushed it open. Inside was a bedroom, eerily ordinary. A neatly made bed, a wooden dresser, an old rocking chair, and a person. I stumbled back. A woman sat in the chair, her back to me. Her hair was long, tangled, covering her face. She rocked slowly, creaking in the dead silence. Hello? My voice sounded wrong in the space, too small, swallowed by the walls. She stopped rocking. A breathless moment passed. Then she stood. Her limbs moved unnaturally, stiff like a marionette. And when she turned to face me, my breath died in my throat. She had no face, only smooth, featureless skin where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. Then she moved toward me. I ran. My pulse roared in my ears, drowning out everything except the desperate need to escape. The hallway twisted, stretched, the doors multiplying. I yanked one open and stumbled inside. Another room, identical to the last. Another rocking chair. Another faceless figure. They rose in unison. I turned to flee, but the door had vanished. Only a wall remained. The whispers grew, rising to an unbearable pitch. You are invited to stay. The words scratched at my mind, clawing into my skull. My vision swam. My body felt heavy, sinking. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was my reflection in the mirror. And it smiled. I woke up in my apartment, the letter still clutched in my hand. The house was gone. No trace of it remained at the edge of town. But the mirror in my room reflected something different. Something that wasn't me. And it was still smiling. Additional story expansion. I tried to shake off the dream, to convince myself that it had all been some feverish hallucination. But the days that followed proved otherwise. Everywhere I went, I felt watched. Shadows in the corners of my vision lingered a second too long. My reflection in windows and mirrors seemed to move just a fraction slower than I did. One evening, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. You left too soon. My breath hitched. My fingers shook as I typed a reply. Who is this? No response. That night, the whispers returned. They slithered through my room, echoing off the walls. I turned on every light, but the shadows remained. The mirror across from my bed seemed to pulse, the glass rippling like water. Then, a hand pressed against the inside. I bolted upright. The hand was pale, distorted, fingers too long, pressing against the glass as if trying to push through. My own reflection was gone. Come back, the whispers pleaded. Come back and stay. The mirror cracked. I grabbed the nearest object, a lampstand, hurled it. The mirror shattered, shards scattering across the floor. The whispers fell silent. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then my phone buzzed again. Breaking it doesn't end it. The next few days blurred together in paranoia. I avoided mirrors, stayed in crowded places, but it didn't help. The presence followed. I researched the house, digging through every source I could find. Buried in an obscure town record was a single mention. A family that once lived there disappeared overnight. The house had been abandoned ever since. A theory formed, one that chilled me to my core. The house wasn't just haunted, it was alive, and it wanted me back. I decided to end it. I would go back, face it, destroy whatever held its grip over me. The house was waiting. The door opened on its own, swallowing me in darkness. The walls pulsed, breathing. The whispers were no longer whispers but a chorus of voices, pleading, commanding, "Stay." In the center of the living room, the mirror stood whole again. My reflection was waiting. "You can't run," it said in my voice, grinning. "Not anymore." And then, it stepped through. I barely had time to scream.